Hey everybody, I'm back. It's Sonia Lakani, and today I have the lovely Sheila Gibson, who is my neighbor down the coast, down the coast in Long Beach. We're neighbors from Huntington to Long Beach. Hi Sheila, how are you?
Hello. Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for making some time on this sunny afternoon.
Yes, it's amazing outside.
Yes, I appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to share your story. So, as you know, I'm doing a series of case study interviews with some of my past 2 weeks of trademarks students. And some of them go to a year before, some of them go to 2 years before. Sheila's instance is actually several years now that she's been in my community and been in my courses. So, I'm really excited to capture your story, Sheila, and just tell everybody how much you're killing it and what you've built, because it's impressive.
Thank you. I'm excited to share.
Thank you. So let's start with the basics. Tell everybody who you are, what you do, what you're up to.
I'm Sheila Gibson, and I have my firm Aura IP Law that I started in 2019. I think either shortly after I took your course, or I might have taken your course like 1 or 2 months after I started. I know that you were very influential in kind of my growth and my ability to take on a new practice area. But I've been practicing in IP for 20 years now, which is so sad to say. I feel so old when I say that. I remember thinking when I was younger, I was always like, oh, I can't wait till I can say I've been practicing for so long. And now that I can say it, I'm like, eee. So anyhow, 20 years, but I was previously entirely focused in patents. I had barely dabbled in trademarks many, many moons ago. And so yeah, that's a little bit about what I do. And my firm is focused in biotech and cannabis, particularly on the tech side for the patent side. And then on the trademarks, probably also very focused in biotech and cannabis, but also do a lot of other technical areas as well.
I love it. Yeah, you're so right. It's all fun and games to be like a 20-year practitioner until you had to do the math. You're like, oh, wait, that means I'm older. Like
Yeah.
the longer I've been practicing, the older wait, no. And then people do the math too. And they're like, so you must be, I'm like, you don't need to say it out loud. Like, it's fine.
Right. Like, don't you remember like, oh, I've been practicing for 2 years. And you were like, gosh, I can't wait till I can say, but yeah, now I'm like, I wish I could say, oh, it's been 5 years.
The trade-off is, yeah, you're young when you get to say that. And the trade-off is that now you're older. So that part sucks. But what comes is lots of wisdom and knowing exactly what you're doing. And your journey is interesting because, like you said, you had such a long past. And I believe it was at a big law firm, if I remember correctly, or like a medium to big law firm.
Like medium to big. I started at Kenobi Martins and then I moved to Son and Shine. So that was my big law firm experience. And then I did a couple of smaller mid-sized firms before I branched out on my own.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you had kind of a tasting of all the different ways that law practice can look. So now you're the boss. Now you have your own. So it's been about, let's see, we're in summer 2022. So about 3 years or so, going on 3 years. Okay.
Yes.
How's it been so far?
It's been amazing. Like, honestly, I really didn't enjoy practicing law until I went out on my own. I mean, it was always something I did and I was good at, but it wasn't something I was passionate about or that I really enjoyed until I went on my own. And now it's been like life-changing, just completely altered my perspective and my dedication to the law. And it's just been amazing.
I love to hear that. And just a tweak of environment, right? I mean, it's not that simple.
Right.
Owning the practice, as many of you know, watching this is like a huge undertaking, but in exchange for that trade-off, like, look what you get to enjoy your life again and enjoy your career path again.
Yeah, totally. And, I'll share, I don't know how much time we have, and I don't want to like go on too many tangents. No. I love talking to you, but
me too.
But yeah, like I remember that so I had this orchid that, I don't know, I probably had it for like 5-8 years. And it was bloomed when I bought it or when somebody gave it to, I don't even know where I got it. And it never bloomed again. And I kept it because it never died either. So it was like, okay. And I just kept watering it and it would get new leaves, but never bloomed until the first year I started my practice and it bloomed. And then when you said changing your environment, like my whole world, like the energy changed. There was like some sort of shift that like was felt everywhere. And so, yeah, and it bloomed ever since.
And that is incredible.
And it's kind of described to me. Like, I didn't bloom, but I wasn't dead either. Like that's kind of how I was going to
kind of the analogy. Yeah. I saw something not that long ago. It was like a video of someone talking about how like her niece did like a science experiment about like having two plants identical, watering them, feeding them the same light, same everything. But one plant, she would speak negatively to it and like say mean things and like that kind of stuff. And it died within 2 or 3 days. The other one, she would speak to it with love and you're amazing and you're going to be so big and leafy and green, and be positive. And like that one just, I mean, it's a plant. Imagine like how we are as humans and like what we need to have in our environment. So, and how you set your life up matters. Practice area matters. The style of practice, whether you're at a firm or whether you're your own boss, and it could go flip too. I know people, it's a little bit more of a rare instance, but I know people that flipped where they hated doing their own thing. And they were like, I'm not meant to be a business person. I'm not meant to be an entrepreneur, but I enjoy practicing again because I get to just practice and not have to do all that other stuff. And so it's like, they're happier having joined, in-house or a firm again or whatever. So yeah, it's just a matter of finding what's right for you. So if we can rewind a little bit to around 2019, around the time that you found me or in my course, how did that happen? How did you come across me? How did you come across the course?
I don't even know. So it was either I either found you on Instagram or my assistant. I have amazing assistant, Brandy, and it might've been her. I think we knew at the time that we wanted to add trademarks to the practice. I had sort of mentally prepared myself to take that step, but I couldn't figure out how, because like I said, I had very limited experience. And I'm talking, probably my first or second year of it might've even been as a summer associate that, I had done a couple trademark projects. So I had, concepts and what you learn in law school, but as you know, that doesn't really teach you how to practice trademark law.
Correct.
So, or any law for that matter. And so I don't know how I came across you. I mean, we probably were looking for something, and I feel like it was Instagram though. And
it could have been, yeah.
Yeah. And I think the first thing that I did, you probably had I think you were having like weekly lives on Instagram that was like sharing 10 tidbits or 5 tidbits or something like that. And I think I did a couple of those and I was like, I knew instantly. I was like, okay, this is what I need right here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. And so when you enrolled in the course, was it self-study or was it back when it was still live every session?
No, it was self-study. We had a definite schedule. And then you did, I think we did 2 like self-study and then we did 1 live.
Gotcha. Okay.
Question and answer.
Okay, perfect. So what was your experience like? You take the course, first, actually, let's back up just slightly. Was there any hesitation on your part? Anything that you were like, I don't know, I mean, like you find this course, you're like, is it going to work? How much, anything that you were wondering about before you enrolled?
Maybe at first it was like, I think, however much it was at the time, it was like, oh, that's kind of a lot of money. And I'm just starting this practice. And, I'm like, I think at that point I had either already left or I was kind of, everything was winding down with my previous law firm. I just don't remember the timing of when it happened. But, I was about to kind of embark on this totally unknown, starting my own practice. I don't know how to do that. I never aspired to be a law firm owner. I never saw myself as a business owner. I never, so there were so many unknowns and I just kept the only thing I was hanging on to was like, just trust the process. And my coach was always telling me, just jump and the net will appear. And so that was my big motto when I decided I was leaving Big Law and I'm going to start my own firm. And that was entirely motivated by, I wanted to help cannabis entrepreneurs, that I really felt compelled to do that. And I wasn't able to do it in a big firm setting at the time because Big Law wasn't really ready to take on that risk. So I knew what I was doing. I knew, what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to get it done. And so I think I saw this and it was like, okay, this is the first safety net, like jump and the net will appear. I was like, okay, this is the net, but oh my gosh, it's so much money. And, where's my money going to come from? You have all those fears when you're starting out, you have all those doubts and all of that. Like, I don't know if I can do this, but I just had to trust. And so I think that was probably my only concern. I definitely knew from like the couple of lives that I had attended of yours that was like, oh, she's the real deal. She's giving the scoop. She's going to teach, how to do it. This isn't going to be like, trademark law 101 that you like take in law school, because I knew that wasn't going to help. Right. I'd taken IP courses in law school. So.
Yeah. The theory stuff is no good. And it's such a bummer because I think, you know, profession wise, I think we're very aligned with medicine in a sense of like, given the amount of schooling and training, and people always put lawyers and doctors in the same sentence, but they get to do rotation and residency and actually learn stuff. And whereas we're just like, this is what we think it, you know, how it came to be. And you're like, that doesn't help anybody. Like, and so, yeah, that was really a big goal of mine when I created the program was I also took nuts and bolts of IP or like whatever. We call it an IP survey course, right? Like a few weeks on each of them, but people want to know how to actually do it. Right. And that was the intention. So you enroll in the course, you're immersed in it, you're going through the material. What is your thought? Are you like happy with your decision? Are you like, okay, this is delivering? And what was your experience going through the material?
Oh, 100%. I think immediately, I mean, one was just kind of your energy, your confidence, like you just like, I immediately felt like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm in the right hands. Like, I felt like, okay, this is it. Like, I'm going to figure this out. I don't remember like the order of the, you know, course materials or what we learned first. I don't remember that sort of thing, but I do remember immediately feeling like, okay, you know, this is going to be the right thing. And then as we progressed, it was just amazing to just have somebody just show you everything, like no hiding anything, you know, and down to like, you know, here's how to file, or I remember, you know, here's how to prepare the specimens, or here's, you know, how to analyze a search. And it was so much of a relief to just have like all of those basics. Like, okay, I've been shown how to do all these things. Now, whether, I mean, going out and doing them is the whole nother story, but at least having, you know, that, and then also having it to reflect back on. There were a lot of times in the beginning where I would like, oh, I got to rewatch the part about specimens to know how to do this, or I got to rewatch this to figure this part out. And so that was also huge. But
and that was a big intent of mine too, is I didn't want it to feel like a rental or like a class that you sat in, right? Where you're, because like I have those moments where I'm like, I feel like I learned that in law school, but I was just sitting there and who knows where those notes are and how would I ever find that one piece again? But to be able to log back in or like pull it back up, that was a big intention. I was very intentionally designed. Yeah. That way that you could always just come back to it. Even now, like lifetime access.
Yeah. I mean, there have been times even years later that I've gone back and like, oh, I remember there was something about, you know, you gave us some of the forms and a couple templates. And I remember sometimes like, oh, I remember something. I think you even gave us engagement agreement language, or, you know, just kind of helped. That might've been because I did the mastermind too. So I'm mixing what came where.
Yeah.
But I've definitely referred back over the years, even recently, to things.
Yeah, I love that
you gave, and was like, I remember learning about this, you know, let me start here.
Yeah. And I'm so happy to hear that, because when you create something with intention and design it a certain way, and then that's exactly what people benefit from and it works, you know, like it's exactly what they wanted. It's such a great feeling, you know, you want it to be not only just meeting expectations, but exceeding them in a way if possible. So, but like you said, that's only one half of the equation, is learning the material, having someone show you. Then there's the other side of it, which is actually taking it and using it to build a business. So talk to us a little bit about what the aftermath, or even during, right, as you're taking the class and afterward of, you know, getting clients, getting business through the door and getting things up and running. What did that look like?
You know, there were a lot of things. So one thing that I started with is, you know, I hit the ground running. I had to. I've got 2 kids. I've got a mortgage. I didn't have any time to like have gaps in income, you know, and I had taken on an FTE. I had my assistant right away. So we had to hit the ground running, and we had to take clients, you know, immediately and just start doing trademarks. So a lot of what that looked like, you know, at the time I also did the mastermind with you. And so I wanted all the access. I knew like I needed all the access to Sonia that, you know, money could buy so that I could,
so sweet.
so that I, you know, could have that confidence and be able to just do things I'd never done before.
Sure.
So, you know, initially for me, one of the things that I did was I purchased data and went after people who weren't represented. Not went after, it sounds pretty sketchy, but anyhow,
I get what you mean.
Campaign that I sent to people who weren't represented. Most of them had filed on LegalZoom, and, asked if they needed help with their trademark applications, and got good reception to that. I learned a lot. I mean, it was a crash course in what not to do, seeing what people do on their own, and the messes that they get themselves into, and how I can, whether I could fix it or not. So that was great. It was also a quick learning lesson on, whether to offer free consults or not free consults, and, good uses of your time and not good uses of your time, and what kind of clients do you want and what clients do you not want. So I felt like that gave me a lot of experience while I was still kind of under your guidance, and then also gave me just a lot of quick lessons. Some of them were hard lessons, but you learn them, and you only learn them once if you do it right.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I got really busy right away. I would say, when my practice started, it was probably 100% patents when it started. I don't know for sure, but I would say by the end of the first year, it was, in terms of new work that we were originating, it was probably 50-50. We were already at like 50%
It's
trademark.
amazing.
Yeah. And now we probably stayed around there. We're about 50-50 in what we originate.
Incredible. And are you seeing that the trademark business is from the same folks that need patent, and so it's resulting in that, or is it like a different group of clientele?
It's totally different.
Wow.
I actually only have a handful of clients who are doing both.
Wow.
Yeah, most of them are either patent clients or they're trademark clients.
Wow.
And, and a lot of that was a lot because I'm in a niche. One of the things that I think really worked well for me is I'm so niche down, I'm like, sometimes I like to say I'm in a bubble, in a bubble, in a bubble, in a bubble.
Yeah.
So, it worked out really well to have such a specialty, because then people, I was attracting the clients who I wanted to have. And those clients felt really good about having an attorney who completely specialized in what they were doing. And that was cannabis. And so I did a lot of, I'm rambling, but anyhow.
No, I want to hear it. This is good. Yeah.
I had, I also took your rainmaking course and your build an empire course. And so I had already learned so much about marketing. And I know that, one of the things that you talked about, like, attending the right conferences, because not every conference is the right conference to attend, and like attending the conferences where you're going to get those referral sources or you're going to get new clients. And so I made sure to position myself in the right conferences and in the right places on the right boards and things like that, so that I was getting those referral sources for clients. And so I was able to really quickly transition from the kind of going after the people who'd filed on LegalZoom. Is that what it's called? Anyhow, the people, because we're on Zoom, so that's why I got confused.
Oh, yeah.
The people who had filed themselves and kind of filed for whatever, hair pieces or whatever they were doing,
Sure.
to kind of the people who were really in what I was passionate about. And so then once my, their interests and my interests were aligned, like that's where the magic's really happening. Because now, I'm really helping on something that I'm extremely passionate about. I'm very involved in. And they're really happy to have a lawyer who understands their industry and all the nuances of the industry. So I think that's something that worked really, really well for me.
It's such a great example about how doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on the people you want to work with. Exactly. I mean, it served you so well because it's so clear who you work with, and then it eliminates everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What sort of like fear did you have about, maybe like driving away business in exchange for only working with a certain type, right? So like did you have any kind of fear of like, oh, well, but like, I won't get enough business if I can only do, what about all the other people who I might be able to, who might want to work with me,
Yeah, no, 100% I had that fear. And sometimes it still creeps in. And I think a lot of that is ego, and a lot of that is scarcity mentality. And you worked a lot with us through that, and I think I even had conversations with you. And I think that, what I gave up in kind of really specializing, it creates two things. One is I'm working with the clients who I'm, like I said, I'm super passionate about what they do, and I'm also very good at it. So when I get somebody outside of that, so, let's just say I get somebody for some sort of motor parts or something, that's not my specialty. And I spend so much extra time figuring out like, okay, how do I describe this thing that they've invented or this thing that they're selling or this business they've created? And, so you see a bigger, ROI, you also see more efficiency when you're specialized. But yeah, it was scary because you do think, okay, if I'm, I had someone ask me the other day, oh, do you only do cannabis? And I always tell them, no, I don't. Because I think when people see you and they like you and they trust you, they're not going to be limited to, oh, but she only does cannabis. They'll ask. So the right clients who want to work with you are still going to ask you if you'll work with them. And so
Absolutely.
I have plenty of non-cannabis clients who enjoy working with me, and we do a good job with that. But in terms of what I'm putting out there and where I spend my marketing effort, I can't be at every trade show. I can't be at like jet engine trade shows and cannabis trade shows and fashion trade shows. So in terms of where I spend my marketing budget, my marketing time, picking one, it did help. I do try with my branding to keep it a little bit more all encompassing, but I have always found that specializing has helped in terms of targeting which clients that you want to help. And truthfully, like, I feel like I manifested it, because I didn't have any cannabis clients when I started. I just knew that was an industry I wanted to work in.
Right. I remember talking with you about that back when we first got connected. Is like, that was your aspiration. And I was like, okay, if that's what you want to do, then that's what you should do. And this is how we can structure it. This is what it can look like.
Yeah. And it's funny because I also like doing sports innovation, and that's just because I'm a big sports nut. And I remember at one point I realized, oh my gosh, I am totally just guiding these clients to me. I mean, because that's a lot of what we do. We do sports innovation. I like cosmetics, so we do cosmetics. And it's just areas that I decided that these are things I enjoy learning about. And these are industries that I enjoy reading about and figuring out and understanding. And so I just that's what we specialize in. And those are the clients who came.
I love that. So it sounds like you've had, no trouble at all building a clientele, which is a huge fear that people have going on their own, right? How am I going to get clients? How am I going to get things going? And so is it safe to say that the material that I taught you had anything to do with any of this at all?
100%.
Can we make that little connect by any measurement at all? I mean, of course I never want to, and it's not even realistic to think that you could be completely responsible because it has to come from the attorney, right? I can only teach you so much, as they say, right? You can teach a man to fish or a woman to fish, but you can't make them, I don't know. There's some metaphor about it, but I can only do so much.
To water, but you can't make it true.
There it is. Yeah. Thank you. There it is. So, but that being said, I do want to hear about, if you feel like the courses and the material and the instruction had any correlation with the success that you're seeing.
Oh, 100%. Because, what is the rule for us? We have to be competent, right? Is that it? And so I would say definitely, I mean, that gave me the kind of 100% assuredness that I was competent to practice in trademarks. Before your course, I have become sure with like thousands of hours of figuring stuff out, Googling and reading the TMEP and I don't know, attending a lot of MCLEs that are sometimes relevant and sometimes completely not, right? Because those are so hit and miss.
Sure.
And so for what you did, I feel like you just like honed in on like, this is what you need to know to start. Like, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know to like hit the ground running. And then it gave me that baseline of, okay, now I know how to do it. Of course, there were things I had to learn on my own. I had to go and figure out, the nuances of cannabis, and that was just getting resourceful. But I also had the tools to become resourceful, and
Sure.
I had the tools to like, well, how would I figure out, all of the cannabis trademarks that have been filed, or how do I figure out what people are doing? How do I do searches? How do I, so just getting creative. The word that Brandy and I like to use a lot about the practice is, just getting scrappy, but I felt like I had the tools to be scrappy. So,
sure.
Now I consider myself seasoned and, I guess more than competent to handle.
Of course. Yeah.
But in terms of like getting to that competency baseline in, what was it? It was 2 weeks. It was literally 2 weeks, right?
Like literally called 2 weeks to trademarks. Yeah.
And that's unheard of.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what's wild. So I think that's what this course really was about, was just like cramming, what would have taken me at least a year in a law firm to learn, right? Because you're working with partners on certain projects and you don't get to see everything in order, and you don't, you might work on an office action one day and then the next day you're working on, a statement of use, and then you don't see a statement of use for another 6 months and you forget how to do it. So this was like completely organized, completely logical, just hone in on it. It was kind of like all the details without any bullshit. Like it was just, here's what you need.
Yeah.
And,
like ready, set, go
there as fast as possible. And that was amazing. That was huge.
I love that. I'm so happy to hear that because, when you, like I said, when you have this vision of like, this is what I want to provide for people who are looking to do this, and just cut out all the BS, teach them exactly what they need and let them go off and build. Right. And to see that it did exactly that is just, it's so rewarding. I mean, from my end and my viewpoint, right, is just, it's so rewarding to see that. And especially to hear that, all the things that you were worried about in the beginning, right? Having 2 kids, having a mortgage, being able to make ends meet. It sounds like it hasn't like financially been really much of an issue at all. Yeah. So to the extent that you feel comfortable being general or specific, like at whatever level you want to get to, talk to us about how you've seen your revenue be impacted and increase over the last few years after having added trademarks.
After having, that's a good question, because I didn't have a baseline because I started immediately with both, even though I wasn't fully ready. But I don't know my first year numbers, but I would say it probably doubled from first to second year. So yeah.
Amazing.
And in terms of, I wish I had my numbers with me because I would totally share, but I mean, total revenue, I'm definitely over 500,000 now. I'm kind of really stretching to try to hit that million mark.
In 3 years. This is incredible. And it's, I mean, people will hear that and go, oh, well, she does patents, but you said it's only half. The other half is trademarks.
So it's
I shake this computer. I'm like, I throw things off the window. I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah. And so it's been, and that doesn't include, that's just revenue. Then you take out the overhead and your employees and everything else. But,
sure.
From starting from, so this is I took one client with me from my firm. And I wish I knew what revenue we got from them the first year, but, they were maybe a 6-figure client, probably below, they were more like an $85,000 client.
Wow.
And the rest of it I've built. So
I could just shake you. I really could. Like just, this is so amazing. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. How does that make you feel? Like, I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
And I think too, the other thing your course gave me was I just got, well, I always say scrappy. Like my first trademark client, and I can share this because she shares it all the time. She loves it. I mentioned I'm a big sports person, and I had met Jen Welter, who's the first NFL female coach. And I met her at a sports camp one time. She taught me how to tackle with a Viking sports camp. And she was using this tagline all the time, and it was really cool. And I just DM'd her. I was like, hey, you should really trademark that. And she was like, she wrote back, and I remember I felt like I totally felt like a little kid in a candy store or something, or so anyhow, so I was like, oh my God, she wrote back. Like, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And so she's like, oh, I've been thinking about it, but I don't really know how. Could you help me with it? And I was like, no way. And so I was like, yeah, I could totally help you with it, and blah, blah, blah. So then she gave me her number, and that's when I felt like, the guy on Hinge or like on, but like, I was like, oh my God, I got her number. I can't.
Yeah.
We're great friends now, but yeah, she was my first client. Just cold DM'd her like, hey, you should make sure you're protecting that mark.
Wow. What a story.
It's been great. And I couldn't have done that if I didn't have, and by then I think I had already had your course, because I couldn't have done that if I didn't have the confidence to like, okay, I can at least file an application, because I didn't even know how to file. Like, because that's the other thing is when you get trained in big law. So whatever experience I had in that summer associate position, keep in mind, I wasn't the one filing. I wasn't the one, I maybe wrote a response and then I handed it to the partner, and then the secretary filed it, so I didn't know how to do this.
Yeah.
So.
You don't know what all goes into it, what questions to ask in the beginning. And, you can go back. Oh, sorry, we need your address. Oh, sorry, we also need the date that you first started selling. Oh, sorry, we also need to And it's like, have you done this before? Like, it's
Yeah,
embarrassing.
exactly.
But to come to a client and say, I'm going to need the following. And it's like, oh, okay, this is not your first rodeo, even though you've never done it before,
Right?
But someone's telling you
my first rodeo.
Yeah, this is actually my first, but like, that's the thing, right? Is that we want to shortcut you. It's like you said, it's doable. This isn't a secret necessarily, but it's cutting the time down. I mean, you're saying in 3 years, you're clearing over $500,000 in revenue on your way to $1 million. If you took out a year of that to try to teach yourself something, right, and not even have the guarantee of doing it correctly or being comprehensive about it and not knowing what you don't know, like what's in your blind spot, right? So you definitely, I'm seeing, it sounds like that you definitely had an ROI, at least on, the 5,000 or whatever that you spent on. And I love that. That makes me so happy to see that you literally added zeros and commas. That's right. Incredible.
Because I mean, think about it. When you're starting your firm, you don't even have time to take a year to learn a new practice area. Like,
yeah.
Not, to kind of hit the ground running and like, okay, I'm going to add this whole thing that's going to be half my practice.
Yeah. Your job is to start making money as soon as humanly possible, but that's the thing. It can be intimidating to even go out and market yourself because you're like, it's a weird thing to say, but my folks watching and listening who have imposter syndrome, like this will sound familiar. You're like, I don't even want to ask for business. And I don't want anyone to call me because I actually don't have any, like, I want to call myself an attorney or like put my shingle up, but like, I actually don't know what I would even do. Like, what would you say if someone's like, sure, I need a trademark. Tell me more. And you're like, what do I say? I don't know.
Yeah. And, and it's important, I think, to mention too, up until I left my firm, I wasn't a business developer. So I was the worker bee associate. So I would, what do they call a service partner is what people would try to categorize.
Interesting.
Like, always looked down upon because, somebody else was bringing in the dollars and I was doing all the work. And some people value that and some people don't. Some people, it's just the rainmakers who are valued. And so I think it's really important to mention that because I didn't have the confidence when I started. There was so much imposter syndrome. Like, how am I going to get business? How am I going to get clients? I've never gotten a client before in my life. Like, how am I going to all of a sudden build a practice, and so that was really scary. And I think a lot of what you gave too, I mean, you gave so many tips on like how to actually build. It wasn't just like, here's how to file the trademarks, but like, here's how to build a practice. Here's how to market. Here's how to make sure clients know you appreciate them.
Absolutely.
Here's how to get more work even after you've finished the trademark process. Here's how to generate more revenue. And I took all of those things to heart and just implemented them like one by one, just okay. And I think if somebody's willing to take the course to learn it and implement everything and just go for it and just, even if you don't believe it, just kind of trust the process and trust that it's going to work. I think that's really what I had to do. So I never saw myself as a business developer. And in fact, so much so I remember I had at one firm, I call it personality counseling. I was labeled as difficult. I don't know if that's ever happened to you.
I could never even imagine that word being, I've known you for years. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And you guys, like, not only do I know her as an attorney and she's taken my classes, but like we've had drinks together, we've hung out. Like, I could never imagine you being labeled as difficult.
Oh,
like,
wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I remember having a conversation with this guy and, first I had to do the 700 questions. That's why I call it personality counseling, because there was a 700 question. It was a personality test. Then he came in with the results and I was so upset about the whole thing. I was so angry. And I remember telling him like, look, I'm never going to change. You're not going to change me. But, let's just say that we did, because that's in both of our best interests, right? That's what the firm wants to see.
Yeah.
And he told me then, he said, you know what, you're actually could be a really amazing business developer. And I was like, no, I can't. I'm not a business development person.
Wow.
That's not what I do. And I didn't believe him, but I did remember it. And that was like years ago. And turns out that maybe I am. I just didn't have the right.
I think maybe you are. That's the understatement I've heard today, this week, is maybe you guys, well, $500,000, over $500,000 gross revenue in 3 years and counting. We're on track to hit $1 million.
Hopefully that's definitely a goal.
It can absolutely happen. It's only up from here. And you call yourself kind of a business developer.
Yeah,
maybe just a little. You might know what you're doing, just a tad.
But I think, too, it's like, I've thought about this. Like, I've never had a Sonia who came into the firm and was like, this is how you do it, right? Nobody teaches you that. Yeah. And so I just was like, it's not me. I'm not a business developer. I see all these other people who are, but it's not me. And I just never had somebody who like actually taught me in a way that I could learn and understand. And like, and I think it's just so much, it's the no BS. It's just like, here's what you do. Like, we don't need to get into theory. We don't need to get into like, so I think that's definitely what changed the game for me entirely.
I am so proud, like learning more and more. And that's why I love doing these interviews, because I know a lot of these attorneys, you guys, from working with them, from being in the community, but to really peel back layers. Like, I didn't know that you never saw yourself as like, as a business developer. Having met you and hung out with you, I would think like you're a natural, you're so friendly and easy to talk to. And you're ballsy, like you'll talk to anybody, and you can make conversations. So it's so interesting to hear and fascinating of like what was going on behind the scenes, what goes on behind the computer. And still, despite all of that, look at what you've been able to do. I mean, you have to sit back and really like, do you sit back sometimes and go, whoa, like, does it feel surreal?
It does. It really does. Honestly, there's a lot of times, especially when, a lot of times I think about it, what I've created, when you're in it, you don't stop that much to just like take it all in. But there are definitely times when it's like, I cannot believe what I've managed to create. I can't believe what I've done. And just how different of a person I am than I was before. I was in a box, like there was a box they put me in and I stayed there like, okay, I'm in this box. This is what I do. Wow. So like anyone who, if there's anyone listening to this who like feels that way, like I hope that resonates with someone, because if you knew me before, like you've only known me since I've been coming out of this box, but like, I'm a completely different person and so much so that my plants responded to me, like
it's like that I just love that so much. Wow.
Yeah. And having my kids be able to see that and watch that happen, and they know it's really special. And a lot of people tell them like what your mom did is incredible.
It is. And it's not normal to just be able to make such a big jump, without any kind of sort of like background, right? Like that's huge. And I think it's such an incredible example for your kids to see that, like, you really, like, it's not all hokey. You really can do anything that it is that you want to do. If you decide you want to do it, get scrappy and do it. You can do it.
Yeah. And I had no safety net. Like I'm a single mom. So there was no second income. There's nobody who was going to rescue me if it didn't work. There was, it was just me on a wing and a prayer, just waiting for my net to appear.
This is so unprofessional. I could honestly start crying because I'm just like, I get it. Like that's, oh my God, I need to get it together. Like, no, I don't cry on these interviews. Like, but I can't, that's so unprofessional, you guys. I'm not going to edit this out because like, it just needs to stay. Like, what a moving story. But like, it's so incredible.
When I did it, I don't know, my kids were out of middle school yet, a middle schooler and a high schooler, and, a giant mortgage because I was making big law money.
Right.
So there wasn't even this like ramp up. Like I had to do it. I had to hit the ground and make enough money to like survive.
Yeah. It's like this good drive, but it's also like a scary pressure too. And it depends on how you take it. One of my brothers says this famously. I don't subscribe to it at all. But he said, when I'm worried about, my next move, or I'll find a financial commitment that is really high. Like I'll, upgrade something or get a new car. I'll do something to like put the pressure on it. I'm like, I can't live like that. Like I'm a happy moneymaker. Like I do it because I have to do things because I love them and they feel good and I'm like enjoying it. I can't work under that kind of, but like you're saying, it works. Like when you don't have a plan B, all you've got is A, double down on A, triple down on plan A. And it just has to work. And it can, though. That's the thing. You're such an amazing success story, not even just firm, law practice wise, but as a mother, as a female, as an entrepreneur. I mean, what a story. What a story.
Thank you.
You guys, she's just walking around unattended, no one capturing this story. You need to be on the news. This is incredible.
Aww.
I'm so proud of you. Like I say it all the time, but I really am. And it's just so inspiring. And especially this is only the beginning. In 3 years, what you've accomplished and knowing what you know now, having practiced not only just the area, right, but having practiced pitching to clients and working with them and knowing what works and how to develop your relationships. I mean, oh, look at you go.
Yeah.
May this only be the beginning.
It definitely is. I have a lot more in me. I have a lot more that I want to do. I haven't had the time. So I'm in a really weird part where now I have 2 high schoolers. I'm staring down the barrel of like empty nester, and I'm like holding on to these moments with everything in me. Just, I'm going to hang on to these kids until they, until they leave the house. So,
yeah.
But I have so much that I, want to do. There's so much more that you taught me that I haven't implemented yet, that that we've talked about, over the years or in the mastermind that I'm still like ready to implement. So yeah, there's a lot left. There's a lot that's just been my law practice. But definitely, there's more that I want to do.
You're just getting, it's like J-Lo said the other day on an award. She's like, I'm just getting started. Like you're just getting started.
Totally.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I can't wait. Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah. I can't wait to, obviously we know each other, but I can't wait to just visit with you again and do another one of these in like another year or 2. And just, it'll be funny to you. You're like, oh, that's so cute. I was making 500. Like, that's adorable. It's like, right. But it's like, it's just incredible. And to meet or surpass your old salary, but on your terms, that is really remarkable to me, because money can be made. You can make money doing absolutely anything. Right. But to make it on your terms in a way that you enjoy, where you're present with your kids, where you can be around, be there for the moments, I mean, what more could you want as a mother? That's incredible.
Well, that's invaluable. Like I've been to every field trip. I've been to every volleyball game. I've been to every, I'm the one who will drive the kids where they need to go. So, I mean, could I be making more? Absolutely. But keep in mind that also fits in being a full-time present mother. So,
right. That's what I'm saying. Like,
so, it's just, and my assistant too. I mean, she has the same liberties to take her daughter to swim practice and go to the choir concert in the middle of the day. And, we do all of the things with our kids. And I would never change that. And so, yeah, it's been amazing. And one thing you reminded me too, when you were saying, oh, I'll look back on, there's sometimes I look back on some of the work that I did that first year and I'm like, oh my God, like, what were we thinking? Like, and there's sometimes where I look back and I'm like, why did we even think we could do this? Like, that's when it really gets me. Like, why did I think I had any business being able to do this? And that's a feeling, and a lot of that was kind of, you definitely empowered me to like, yes, I can do this. And it's on the trademark side. On the patent side, that's just, I've been doing that 20 years. So
sure,
there's, it's cool, but it's not like astounding where it's like on the trademark side, I'm like, why did I think that I could do this? Not that I didn't do it, but it's like, it's amazing that I just jumped in and did it. And just,
that's what I'm saying.
Work that I've done that I'm embarrassed of, but I also heard someone say, like, if you haven't done, if you can look back on work you did 2 years ago and you're not embarrassed, you waited too long. And so I feel like, okay, yeah, I didn't, there's stuff I did where I'm like, ooh, that was
same. I did lots of $400 trademarks, lots of them.
Yeah.
Call me LegalZoom. I mean, but like, I did them really well. And that's why I was like, I probably lost time on, not money. I lost time on them, but like, you know what? It didn't matter at the time. I got a ton of clients. No one said no, right? Everyone was willing to work with me. So like it worked out for the time frame. So we've all been there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh
so
my
it's
gosh.
fun to look back and see like how you've evolved and how.
Yeah. Like, you have so much you have so much to be proud of. Truly. It's absolutely incredible. I know you have clearly lots to get to. You guys, she has a trip to Hawaii coming up in just a couple days. So, right. And that's what I love to see all my students, like living your best life, traveling, being the parent you want to be, being the traveler you want to be, and whatever it is that life should be to you, as cheesy as it sounds, like we only get to do it once. So, I love to see you planning travel and getting out there. So that being said, I know that you do have to wrap up soon. I have one last question, which you kind of touched on, but I always like to leave this for the end just because it's kind of like a nice way to wrap things up. If someone's watching or listening and is where you were, right? They're starting out, they don't have a plan B. They're super worried about money, super like they don't have the $3 to rub together, to spend on coffee, let alone a course. And not that we advocate anybody going into debt. Like that is not the purpose of this question or the purpose of this series. But what would you say to someone who's trying to figure out if this is the right move for them? They want to practice trademarks. They're interested in it, but they're scared of the money, right? Or they're scared of the investment.
Yeah, I think the couple things, one, you have to invest in yourself. You have to invest in yourself. And, if you're not willing to invest in yourself, no one else is going to be willing to invest in you either with their IP or with their, I think that's one. Two is a really important lesson I learned in a really strange way, but it's stuck with me ever since. Money is a renewable resource. Like if you don't believe that you can't make that money back, there's a different kind of problem that you have than whether or not you can learn trademarks. Like you have to believe that you can.
Wow.
If you look back on your life, I mean, that's the one thing I've always been able to do. I remember when I got laid off fresh out of college and I was on my own and I was figuring out like who was charging the least late, the lowest late fee so I could pay my bills in order that it would cost me the least amount, like money is a renewable resource and you have to trust yourself to be able to make, I've always been able to make money. And, and I think there was a third thing that I thought of that I think I forgot, but I mean, those would definitely be, and I think also just really the kind of not having you can't start a practice with a scarcity mentality. Like you have to go in with an abundance mindset. And that goes into the same thing, that you're going to make enough money to pay for this course. But in terms of like, is it worth it? Yes, 1,000% worth it. But just those were more general, but then this course in particular, yeah, I would pay, of course, knowing now what I know, like I would have paid probably 10 times what I paid. So
the fact that people tell me that regularly are like, you could be charging more. I'm like, I appreciate that, but it's like, I want it to be fair too, but it's such a compliment. And it's such a sweet, amazing thing to hear that people would, not only do they not regret their investment, not only do they 1,000% recommend it, but that they would have paid more. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. I totally would have paid. And I went through so many, and we even did the mastermind, and you were so instrumental. I think I've told you this, like so instrumental in my success and so instrumental in kind of getting my firm off the ground and getting me to where I am today. Like that's invaluable. That's, and I don't regret any of the investments that I made. I did tweaks to trademarks. I did the Empire course. I did the Rainmaker course.
You've taken so much. Yeah.
And in every single one, I learned new things too. It wasn't like, oh, let's rehash the same things and just put a different cover on it. Like I learned new things in every single one, and relevant things and things that I was able to immediately implement. Like, okay, let's do this. We're going to do this and glad. See return on it. So you're the like mentor that every lawyer needs, and they just wish they had. Like I felt like I had like, okay, I have this mentor who's like going to guide me through this. And I'm not one who will ask. Like I'm always afraid to ask people. Like I know some people, and some people even reach out to me like, hey, will you share your cannabis expertise with me? And I'm always happy to, but I'm not one who will ask. And so for me, it made it more comfortable that it was like, okay, I'm paying and I'm learning, and I'm not imposing on somebody.
Absolutely.
But I feel like you poured into us. Like you definitely cared and poured into all of us that were in the course, in all of the courses. And so I definitely never felt any regret, not even close about the money.
I'm so glad. Thank you. And I love to see you doing so much with that knowledge and then adding your own on, right? And then just taking it and running with it. And now you're learning more, and it's just compounding what you learn, you build on that, do something else, learn, build on, and that's exactly what it should be. And it's just, it's such a joy to watch you go. This isn't just incredible. Yeah. I hope that you really sit back and think about, like, even if you haven't up until today, or like, life gets busy, but take a minute after this, after we conclude, to really be like, dude, I fucking did it, dude. Like, well, look at me. Like, I fucking did that. That's amazing.
Yeah, no, I will. I would cry. That's why I won't right here.
I know. I know. I need to like,
but
I cry very easily. So I'm really not the person for this.
Have my moment. But yeah, it's important to celebrate that. I think
absolutely
it really
it
is. Yeah. And I mean, it's just in comparison, I thought about, I took a PCT course recently. It was a free course.
What is PCT for? I don't even know.
Patent side.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
It was a free course and it was, I don't know, 6 weeks long or so, but it was so involved and like down to the minutia that like everything I could have like learned and taken from that course was lost in the minutia. And I think that's one thing I keep saying it, but I really think it's important for people to understand is that all of it was only what we needed. It wasn't, let me tell you every instance of everything that could happen in a trademark application and every possible thing that could go. It was just, here's what you need to get started. This is the most important things. And you can go with this. The rest of it, you'll figure out when it comes up. Like since then I've filed.
You can find the answer. Yeah.
And I figured out how to do it. I filed a petition to make, I did a petition. What is the petition you can do to
make special something? I know what no, not that one. Okay.
To object to somebody's trademark. So I've actually had a trademark.
Opposition.
Not an opposition.
Not an opposition. Letter of protest.
Yes.
Yeah. Letter of protest.
So like once I had that foundation, then I was like, it gave me the courage to like branch out and do those more complicated or kind of not so everyday type of things. But I just needed that foundation, and that's
just need a little kickstart. I love to love it. I love to see it. Love it. Oh my God, Sheila, I just want to hug you through the computer. Aww. But I'm gonna see you soon because you guys were neighbors. So we live. She lives in Huntington Beach. I mean, I live in Huntington Beach. She lives in Long Beach. So beach towns all around. Yeah. Thank you so much again and again for making time and for being so genuine and vulnerable and sharing your story because it's so inspirational. I know for sure people watching this are like, oh my God, wait, if she can do it, I can do it. And that's what we want to leave people with is that it doesn't have to just be a fluke. Like it's not just me. It's not just you. It's not just other person. It is out there for everybody who wants it, who's willing to put in the work. Yeah.
I agree 100%.
Well, I wish you much further success. May this only be the beginning and enjoy your trip to Hawaii soon.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye.